Bates Motel Season 2, Episode 7, Presumed Innocent. Now, this episode was definitely one of the more subtle episodes, but it had some really serious moments in it, especially the ending for both the Bates boys, with one getting knocked out and the other getting busted. It's really going to have a serious effect on the next couple of episodes, which I found out after watching this one that we only have 3 left. I thought this was going to be a much longer season because they actually got renewed, but only 3 episodes left, so this one, just like last season, is only 10 episodes long, but I'm really excited to see how things play out for the rest of the season. But before I get to the really big stuff, I'll get to the more subtle moments, like the very beginning of this episode when Norma goes to City Hall to get her parking pass and all the little stuff, and the first woman she runs into who gives her all the information and says, I want you to have this ahead of time as much as you could so you could get caught up and things like that. You could just see how little she cared about Norma, because everyone knows that she got this spot because of who she knows. And it was interesting to see that even the guy who's on the seat with her, who we get introduced to in this episode because he was absent at the last meeting, he sits her down to talk to her, and the first thing he says is, it's funny how life works out. Like, he knows exactly who she knows, which would be Nick Ford. And it was interesting how he was starting to question her about how she got her job, and she is oblivious. She, of course, didn't realize that it was Nick Ford being Nick Ford, and the drug lord Nick Ford, he influenced the guy, and that's how she got that job without any questions. There was no real merit or anything like that. Even though she has merit, she has done things. She is a small business owner. She moved into the town, built the motel up from nothing, and she has a successful business, sure, but even with all the training she did, it didn't matter. She knew Nick Ford, and that was all it took. And I'm assuming the guy who did hire her in and said, that's all you, once he found out that she knew Nick Ford, he said that's all it really took at the meeting they had. I'm sure he told other people, like, hey, she knows Nick Ford, and that's all there is to it. Or he kept his mouth shut, and people just know this random woman who caught the one guy a dick and now he's dead, she just suddenly gets his spot with no question. But I'm sure there are a ton of other people who wanted that spot as well, who are a lot more credible and have some experience, even if it's minimal. They have more than Norma does. So it's interesting to see how well she's being received, which obviously isn't well at all. So it'll be interesting to see in these next couple episodes if that even plays out, and I'm sure it will. On a small scale, she probably won't even be in the actual city council until season 3, which I hope they do get renewed for season 3. But it was just interesting to see that everyone knows that she got in there for a reason that wasn't exactly, hey, I'm a good person and I deserve this job. So it'll be interesting to see how that storyline really plays out with her being on city council. But like I said, it probably won't play a huge role in this season, and I hope it does have some effect in the next season. I don't think Nick Ford is going to just be, I don't think his storyline is going to be finished. He's such a big character that we've been introduced to this season that I think he'll be in a couple of seasons until he's either killed or decides to just get out of the game, because too many other people have been getting killed off. But it was very interesting to see how she was being treated and how she didn't really notice it. Of course, she's very oblivious to certain things, which I find really funny about her character, where she's so focused on Norman and so focused and happy about some of the things that happen to her because she knows how much that'll help Norman, that she really misses out on some of the really obvious signs that other people are sending her way. And she misses the little glares, and she doesn't understand why this guy's sitting her down, and he's like, yeah, of course you just got the job, why don't you tell me what's really happening? She sort of glances over that stuff because, of course, right after she's about to have this talk with the guy, Romero comes in and tells her what happened. So I'm excited to see how that plays out, but the rest of this episode was definitely interesting. The middle portion was fairly slow. I, of course, knew Norman wasn't going to be messed up by this because we saw what happened. Aside from all the other times where he does actually black out, this was one where he was fully aware of what was going on. He was angry at Cody, and it made perfect sense. And her dad came out. He was angry because that's just his character. And he hit Cody, he hit Norman, and Norman fought back, and he pushed him down the stairs in self-defense. And it was really cut and dry. That's all there was to it. But the lieutenant in this episode, who we were randomly introduced to, who is way over the top and trying to get things done. I for some reason I get the feeling that she's not from the city, just because of how much she's really trying to get all this stuff done, and she brings in her friend from another city who works on genetics and does the tests and things like that, and she's going above and beyond what Romero wants, and he just seems annoyed by her. So I get the feeling she sort of went to the city and kind of went into their academy. For some reason she's in the city and she ended up becoming a lieutenant, but she's not in the whole drug realm of things. She's a by the books type of cop, and she just wants everything done like it should be. And who knows, maybe she has some connection to the teacher who died. I can't think of her name right now, but maybe she has a connection to her, and maybe she suspected Norman, or maybe she just thought from season 1 this kid and his mom are fairly suspicious. They're in here all the time with weird stuff happening. They had a weird ordeal with the other cop who's dead now. Maybe there's something going on with this family, and maybe that's why she's so up in arms in this episode, where she's just really trying to get things done. And in the end of this episode, when she mentions how she puts his DNA into the database, and she finds out that his DNA matches the other semen sample that was inside the teacher that they can never identify, that was a huge moment in this episode, and of course that's why they ended on it. But I was not expecting that at all. I honestly thought, through some of the things that happened in this episode, particularly Cody telling Norman that his mom knows about his blackouts and knows that there's some big secret behind it, I thought that eventually she would tell him, I think you killed your teacher. And I thought that's how that was actually going to come about, and he would realize that that's exactly what happened, and it would sort of mess with him mentally, and he would have to find a way to live with that and not tell the secret, because of course he'd be sent to prison for it. But I thought that's how that was going to come up, that she would eventually, he would of course keep pushing her, and she would eventually tell him. And instead, in the end of this episode, he just gets busted and Romero knows his secret. And in the preview, Romero obviously isn't just going after it, and that could be because of the fact that Dillon works in the drug world, so of course he knows who Dillon's related to and stuff. So that might be why he's not so driven to destroy Norma like he was in season 1. But I don't know what's going to happen, but it's very interesting. It's going to be very interesting, at least, to see how that plays out in only 3 episodes, sadly. But if they only have 3, I'm sure we're gonna get some crazy episodes in these next couple of weeks. But it was definitely an amazing ending, and I just can't wait to see how things play out for Norman and Romero. And I'd love to see them interact, because they don't really interact too much. They did in season 1 because, of course, a lot of people were dying, and it was because of Norman and his mother. So they were always in the police station. But in this episode, they didn't interact too much, even with Romero actually living at the motel at the moment. Norman and Romero, I don't think they've even been in a scene together this season. It's been Norma and Romero. But Norman and Romero haven't even really seen each other until this episode, and that was about it. So things are going to change between them, and they're going to be talking a lot more outside of the police station. But it was a great reveal at the end of this episode, and I'm very curious to see how things are going to play out, because this lieutenant knows, and she's obviously gung-ho trying to get all the answers. I don't know, she might get killed off, and if that happens, then I have no idea how that would change this series. But I feel like if she did get killed off, it would have to be Romero working with Norma to do that, because I don't think Norman would just willingly kill someone, but Norma probably would in order to save Norman's life. So we'll have to see how things play out. But great episode. Also loved when Norman actually confronted his mother. Her reaction is not at all what I expected it to be, because typically her reaction is sort of the fake sadness, and she sort of manipulates people, and she acts like she's really sad and doesn't really understand things. And she does it, of course, to Norman most of all, because she is trying to protect him from himself. But in this episode, when he does confront her about it, and it could be the fact that he's been so angry towards her, and he continues that in this episode, like the scene where he talks to Romero, and Romero says Norma could come in if he says you can come in if Norman wants you to, and he says no, she can wait out here. I think just all those scenes coming together in this moment just made her snap, and she was like, "After as crappy as you've been treating me the past couple of days, you don't get to confront me about me protecting you." So she sort of snapped, and I thought that was a great twist to her sort of manipulative form that she normally has, where she's very soft spoken to him and tries to hide all these secrets without yelling at him. But she flat out admits that there is some huge secret, because she just yells and says, "You don't confront me about this ever again." And I love that moment, because it, like I said, it was so different from how she normally deals with Norman confronting her about situations. But I love that scene. And also, not to skip over it, but Cody does actually leave in this episode, so the love interest has come and gone, like her nice red leather jacket and same color car. It just gone out of the show, unfortunately. But she was a good character. She obviously, of course, is a huge component now, because if it weren't for her and her father dying, then Norman's DNA wouldn't have been logged into the system, and there wouldn't have been a match. So she did serve a huge focus, or a huge purpose. I don't know why I said focus, but she served a huge purpose outside of just being the new love interest that causes certain little things to come up. And even if he wasn't busted, she still had really good moments, like her being the first person that Norman actually told about his blackouts. I thought that was a great moment in this season, and that's only because he had such an interesting connection with her character. So I really enjoyed that. But her leaving and her father dying, greatest moment that her character gave to this show, him being busted and us having to wait and see how that changes the show. But all of that with Norman was great. And then, of course, the other side of the episode really was Dillon, of course, dealing with the drug world and trying to figure out, how the heck do I follow orders with Zane while at the same time manipulating him and trying to make things right. And in this episode, Zane confronts Dillon and says, "Hey, I know exactly what's happening." He also sort of looks out for him when he talks about his sister, and says that it wasn't the first time she's dated under a pay grade, which I thought was interesting. And it might affect Dillon, it might not, who knows. But definitely interesting to see how things play out with that, because of course, Zane, being the character he is, he's just erratic and doesn't think as much as he should, and he attacks this compound at the end, knocks Dillon out, so Dillon may or may not be busted. And also in the preview, he was actually talking to Nick Ford, which may also result from the fact that Nick Ford does his research, so he probably already knew that he was Norma's son and that he was on the opposite side of the drug world. So that's probably why he hasn't been killed by them. But this guy's out of control, and even with his sister giving Dillon orders, it doesn't matter to him. He's gonna do what he wants to do, and he's just gonna kill people until he thinks he won, and that's just not gonna happen. It's gonna go back and forth, like Dillon said. And anyone would say that if they were smart, because if you killed someone and they killed 2 people, you should know that if you kill 3, they'll kill 4, and it'll just build up until crazy stuff like that happens. So it was a good episode. I also thought at one point that when they actually came to pick them up, I really thought he was going to kill Dillon's partner, Remo. I thought Remo was going to get killed off for sure, and that really sucks, because I actually like his character. He doesn't say too much, and he doesn't do much outside of be in episodes with Dillon, or be in scenes with Dillon, because he doesn't really have his own scenes. I don't think he's had any scene where he was really by himself, but I like his character a lot, and he's sort of the older, wiser character for Dillon, but at the same time, Dillon's the boss of him, so I sort of like that dynamic, and they do actually get along compared to season 1, which I do actually enjoy. They're a good little team. But I really thought he was going to get killed in this episode when the 2 big guys were behind him. But I'm glad he didn't, and hopefully he isn't killed off in this little shootout that they have in the barn. And odds are Zane won't get killed off either, because then if he died, then the problem would be solved, actually. But love the episode. Like I said, sort of subtle, but it had its big moments, especially the last 2 scenes. Dillon's knocked out. Romero knows that Norman was with his teacher, so we're gonna have to wait and see what happens. But it was a great episode. Sucks to see Cody go, but for her last episode, coup d'etat, she sort of is the reason that he's busted, that Norman's busted. So Excited for these last 3 episodes. Comment below, let me know what you guys thought this episode. Favorite parts, least favorite parts. And with Romero now knowing Norman's secret, as well as this lieutenant, how do you guys think things are going to play out? Is he going to get busted and then they kill someone? Is he going to get busted and go to jail temporarily? How do you guys think things are going to go? Are they going to find another scapegoat? Because I think it would be hard to do that with no other random people. I thought Nick Ford could be the scapegoat when the season first started, and then we find out that he's actually the teacher's father, so he obviously can't be the scapegoat because he wouldn't kill his own daughter. But how do you guys think things are going to go for these last 3 episodes? Comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.